I am hydrated. I have remembered to bring water. I have snacks. More importantly, I have a book to read. I have a woman who loves me. I've discovered many, many ways that I can show off my unique skill sets and the way that my idiosyncratic, if not unique, worldview, my unique way of approaching problem solving and fun having, fun making, I can express those things. I have um, made a couple of new, I don't know, friends. Hey, Miko, who have recognized that I'm pretty decent at video games, and the video games that I like to play are different than the kind of video games that other streamers like to play. Uh, Conducive to watching is what I'm looking for in video games. I really cut the fuck out of my face. Does anybody else notice that? I really cut the fuck out of my forehead right here. I must have like scratched a pimple with a fingernail before I realized I had fingernails. I think that's exactly what I did. I cut the fuck out of my face right there. It's made a wicked, nasty, ugly scar. I think it's an ugly scar. I've been playing a lot of auto battlers right now, Miko. A lot of strategy auto battlers, and then I tend to like roguelites. So today we were playing Nine Kings. Um, I've never done it before, but I think that's what I did. I think I cut myself right here. I've been trying to figure out whether it was real or not, whether I'd really seen it for a few weeks. But yeah, that's definitely a scar. But yeah, I play a lot of auto battlers, strategy games. I really like RPGs. I really like military sims. So like, I've been looking for something that's like medieval Total War or the Civilization. I really love the Civ franchise, but a little bit tighter, a little bit shorter in gameplay loop, or maybe a little bit more micromanagey, like with actual like more like an RTS where you actually see your workers go out and build stuff or whatever. But I've been playing a lot of a game called Nine Kings. I appreciate it, Miko. It's just noticing my own face change, and I finally remarked on it because the light is in such a way that I can absolutely see that that's 100% what I did. Nine Kings is really cool. Um, it's a card based little tower defense, city defense game. It's very cool. I played it all day today. And then He Is Coming is it's basically it's an auto battler. It's basically like if you know what the old school 1980s RPGs on PC looked like. It looks like that. Instead of having to select commands, attack, magic, run, all those different things, it's an auto battler. So it's very much like the core gameplay of Loop Hero, except there's no base building element, and I really like that shit. Hello, Dante. I really like roguelites. Nine Kings is very cool, and then I'm going to be playing a game called. Let me find it here on my screen, and I'll tell you what it's called. Songs of Six, SYX. It's very cool. I'll be playing the shit out of that. And then I've also been playing like just your traditional roguelites. Like I play a lot of Brotato and Hades, and I'll get back into Factorio, and then I'm gonna be playing the turn-based tactical roguelite, The Last Spell, too, and Hades, of course. Hades is awesome. But yeah, I've found a bunch of video games that work for me creatively, and I might get back into Necess, Necesse. I'm assuming it's a French game. Yeah, yeah. The video games are hobbies. Yeah, they let me do storytelling or pass time. Really, they just let me pass time in a more creative kind of way, and in a more slightly more passive kind of way. Um, I'm doing great, Dante. How are you? They let me pass time in a way. They let me use my hands and engage my mind in a way that also doesn't absorb all of my attention away from being able to do these lives. That's from a song, Mike. I'm glad to hear you like that song, or at least that you have heard that song and enjoyed having heard it. We are going to go to reading, but I haven't had any one-on-one time with Miko, and Miko is asking me good questions. I feel like I remember liking that song though, Mike. So if I remember that song correctly, I feel like I remember. Um, I feel like when it first came out, I remember thinking, "Ah, this sounds like something that Eminem would have written or might have written." Yeah, for sure. I don't think I've got to really pick your brain. Usually, when you stop by, I say hello and then you say goodbye. But I seem to be catching you when I do these spoopy weens more often, which is great. It really is great. It's all good. I knew which one you meant, man. I'm not worried about it. And then, of course, we've got 7 Days to Die and Schedule One that go up pre-recorded. Yeah, it's that time of year, Miko. It's that time of year. We got a holiday coming up. We got to be ready. Our bodies want us to be ready. I mean, if you're in the northern hemisphere, our bodies want us to be ready for food. We're going to be having our bodies are telling us that there's going to be less of it growing on the ground in the next few months. So our bodies are telling us to be and stay busy. And so our brains are finding ways to do that thing. And like you said, I found hobbies. I found hobbies to help me deal with that particular anxiety because that's an anxiety that comes from the body and really we just don't have control over it. So yeah, we just stay busy this time of year. And it'll slow down again. It'll slow down again through November, and then it'll ramp back up in December because we make busy, right, to get through the worst of December, and then January, February, March are gonna grind to a complete halt. They're gonna feel like the days aren't moving, and that's just our bodies. It's just our bodies reacting to the planet, and that's okay. I'm not gonna hold it against you. Maybe Seed of Abraham would hold it against you, but I wouldn't. This is where I say, if I said you had a nice body, would you hold it against me? You understand that I'm just being funny and I'm not flirting with you because we were just talking about our bodies communicating. Well, I was just talking to you about our bodies communicating with me, with us, and then sex jokes. Hobbies are good for you. Yes, they help with anxiety and stress. That's right. Things that stimulate my interests and that I think are cool. They allow me to be enthusiastic in public, which people like. People don't like it when I'm zoned in but unenthusiastic because I'm either learning or I'm bending something to my will. People don't like to watch that, but they like to participate with me when I'm doing things that I think are cool and that hold and maintain my interest for more than a few days. I said maybe, Seed. I was just involving you in the conversation in case you were still here. I said maybe. I don't know. I don't know you from Adam. Ooh, look at that. I can do Bible references too. No, I got to make sure that that doesn't have too much downward pressure on it so my tent doesn't collapse around me again. Cool. I appreciate being able to bond with you like this, Miko. We come from a similar place. I think I've told you before that your username looks to me like right in the middle there, there's a face going. Well, what does enjoy mean, Seed? Do I enjoy the verses or do I not enjoy them? Do I not enjoy the verses or do I not enjoy them being thrust on me apropos of nothing in the middle of a pre existing conversation that has nothing to do with the verse itself? Do I not like the verse, the composer of the verse, the speaker of the verse, or the shoehorning of the verse where it doesn't belong? Which of those four things? Yeah, that was you. I remember it was you. Ah, you was Telemachus. Heard that. And I asked you if Dad came home or something to that effect. It seems like all of the above. So you don't have the ability to parse through possibilities there, seed of Abraham? We talking about an entirely pre-scientific worldview you've got there? My day was great, Miko. I had a really good day, actually. I read some of my literary work for the channel. I got to hang out with my friends. Like I said, I got to play Nine Kings. I found out a new way that I can engage my audience on YouTube Live with my laptop. I'm finding new ways every day that I can use my laptop creatively that I just could not. I had a major blockage, like a wall, right? Like when people were talking about running long distance, they hit a wall, or when you're eating a lot and you're trying to impress your family with how much you can eat, you hit your wall, you know? There was just this major wall between me and my previous Surface laptop that I just could not figure out how to make it creatively productive for me. And so, yeah, thank you for your positive feedback. It is amazing. It feels amazing. It feels like being Super Saiyan 3 or Super Saiyan 2, if you know the Super Saiyan 2 is what I meant to say. If you know the metaphor, it feels like I'm living my best life. It feels like I'm living my best life. A lot of people wouldn't believe me when I say that, but what does that mean, Seed? Except when someone brings up a different topic and you bring negative feedback. Okay, well, I can't bring negative feedback. I'm the one on camera. I'm also the one sitting in the lotus position right now playing shaman on the internet. I can't bring negative feedback. And have you ever been in a conversation, Seed of Abraham? Have you ever I'm just going to need a yes or a no here, not some pedantic bullshit from a fucking idiot. Just a yes or a no here. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone? That ever happened to you before? Now, this is a logic gate. I've given you a direct command. If you fail, there are no second chances. I'm happy you're happy, Miko. Genuinely. I'm here to try to do that. Anyway, I'm going to go about 40 seconds and then I am going to read this because I do have other things that I need to do with my time this night and I have badly mismanaged my time today. So I don't mean to count it down, but it's raining, which is a good thing. But I got 30 minutes until it's 2 a.m., which will be a 14-hour day for me. Not complaining. Just keeping you in the loop of my life. Because I love ya. Now I gave myself a 30-second time limit. and lost my fucking green bag. All right, chitter chatter. Continue doing what you do. So I've decided that Seed can't answer a basic question. It was a yes or a no question. So, moving on from you forever. You failed. You can't answer a basic question. If you can't answer a basic question, a yes or a no question about your lived experience, you are probably not a viable source of information as regards Scripture. If you've never been in a conversation with a human being before, you are probably not who God sent to shepherd human beings. That makes sense. I was kidding about the chitter chatter. I just can't ever do anything on time because, PDA and a total paucity of professionalism. The perfect paucity of professionalism. There we go. Let's go with the alliteration because alliteration is sexy. This is where we make wet pussies. We hide the joke my girlfriend's not allowed to hear me making while I'm muted so that nobody can hear it. And I can't get in trouble. See? Like when we used to talk shit about our parents into jars and stuff and then close the jar. Did nobody else do that? I don't think I ever did that either. Okay. I can figure this out. It's a big sweater. Voluminous even. I'm into V adjectives right now. Okay. My friends, the time is now. I don't know why I did that. I didn't mean to plug my phone in. Hey, welcome back, Nico. I'm glad to see you returned. To know you've returned, in fact, to have it confirmed. I am going to be reading now. I have everything I needed. I'm mic'd, so I don't have to stress my voice to get it to that mic. It's right here. I don't think it sounds good always, but hey, here we are. I can whisper and you can hear it. I'm going to be reading starting in chapter 20 of Edward Bulwer Lytton's The Coming Race. If you're unfamiliar, The Coming Race is a book that was instrumental in the Nazi occult worldview. And so we're reading it for Spoopyween in honor of people who celebrate Halloween, because a bunch of people who are no longer associated with the channel wanted me to do something for Halloween. So here we are, celebrating Halloween in the way that Shaggy does it. Yeah, Edward Bulwer Lytton's The Coming Race. It's about an American guy, an American-born person who went and started a business in London. And so Edward Bulwer Lytton is a Londoner who started it was written in the 1800s, so it's set in the 1800s, who opened a prospecting company. So he's a miner. He's got this miner, and his miner comes up to tell him that the cave or the shaft or whatever that they're prospecting, that he saw a city underground. He saw lights in a city of humans underground. And the guy's like, I don't believe you. And so they go down together. And then the narrator gets down to what would be ground level to this city, and his companion falls and dies, effectively, is what happens. And so our narrator is living among these people because he can't get back to the surface. And these people are called the Vrilya, and they have what are to an 19th century person magical technologies, including their ability to use the Vril, which he's described as somewhere between electromagnetism, something that they didn't know anything really about yet, 1800 science. So somewhere between electromagnetism and the strong and weak forces of Newtonian physics or quantum physics, whatever. I meant to say atomic physics. So we're in chapter 20, and in the previous chapters, what he's taught us is that the Vrilya, this magic, is something that is most strongly used by women and especially small children. So their small children are raised and behave like our highest academics, and they live these prolonged lives of over 100 years. And the boy, when he and his companion first came into this cave system where they found the Vrilya city, and the guy falls and dies. Basically a dragon, like a great big reptile, eats him, takes him and eats him. And then later, he doesn't describe how big it is. He just says a reptile comes and eats him. And then later, the previous chapter that we just watched, it's really not interesting, but I make it interesting. I'm doing my best to make it interesting. It's really not interesting when you read it. But if you contextualize it as 19th century, that makes it interesting again. So thank you for saying it is. When he and this little boy, the little boy's name is Tari, when he and this little boy Tari in the previous chapter go hunting for this lizard, when it finally shows itself, it's over 100 feet from mouth. It's like a crocodile from mouth to tail. It's over 100 feet long, and the boy instantly basically vaporizes it. He hits it with this Vril magic, and it cooks it from the inside out so hot that it crumbles to ash and nothing right in front of dude's face. And so that was the most recent thing that happened in the book. And so, because you're here, and I'm just anybody else that's listening, and anybody that hasn't been able to follow along, because it's 19th century, it's also 19th century prose, and the way that he talks, it's fucking annoying. I agree. He's also been telling us that the Vrilya, this Vrilya people, that they're ultra peaceful, haven't had a war engagement among themselves for thousands of years. About 4,000 years was the last time this people needed to manufacture weapons and prepare for a full-scale combat engagement against another Vrilya civilization. But then he's talking to the boy 2 chapters ago, and the boy is telling him about how children Vrilya will go and vaporize whole non-Vrilya, still underground barbarian civilizations because for their own reasons. And so Edward Bulwer-Lytton is all over the place. This is very obviously a first draft. He's all over the place thematically, and then his chapters retcon one another. But that's what 19th century literature was like. And that we're reading this because it's laughable that the Nazis thought this was nonfiction. We're reading it because people thought this was nonfiction because of the way in which it was written. Hey, Angela. Yep. All right. And now I'm going to read. Now that I've recapped it for anybody who hasn't made it this far with us. We're going to be reading chapter 20 of The Coming Race by Edward Bulwer-Lytton. And it's important. The reason it's called The Coming Race, I don't know if he named it The Coming Race first and then needed to flesh out these plot details, but it's called The Coming Race because this people, the Vrilya people, their most sacred and deepest, most secretest religious myth is that their people went underground sometime around 15,000 years ago, And the last person, or at least the leader that decided to take their people group underground, as he left, he decided that they were going to return someday and genocide all the humans that live on the surface. Now, EBW or EBL doesn't seem to always remember that. As he's writing, he doesn't seem to always remember that, because he said that they've never had a violent conflict and they would never consider doing harm to anyone for any reason. And then at the end of that chapter, after saying that for many, many, many sentences, the leader of these people goes, "Oh, also, we're going to exterminate you one day. Just not today, because we don't want to, I guess." And then the little boy is like, "Oh, we exterminate one another from time to time because we can." Because that's supposed to show that these people are fucked. And then he has like this political argument with a little boy about how the American democratic system is actually the best government system, and that Europe is clamoring to become it, and falling to proto-Marxism, socialism as it existed in the 19th century before the Nazis called themselves the National Socialist Party, when they were neither national nor socialist. Anyway, from chapter 20. Reading this because Nazis believed this. Modern Nazis, the Hollow Earth, believes this. What's his name? David Icke borrows a lot of his bullshit from this. And then the next book that we're going to read, The Shaver Mysteries, also believes this. I have read some George Orwell, yes. If you're talking about 1984, I read that in high school. Chapter 20. From the date of the expedition with Tari, which I have just narrated, the child paid me frequent visits. He had taken a liking to me, which I cordially returned. Indeed, as he was not yet 12 years old, he keeps calling him an infant. He can't decide whether he's 4 years old or somewhere under 12. This is a first draft. You can tell that EBL absolutely did not read this back. As he was not yet 12 years old and had not commenced the course of scientific studies with which childhood closes in that country, my intellect was less inferior to his than to that of the elder members of his race, especially of the Guy I, and most especially of the accomplished Z. This is a retcon of an earlier scene where he said that that Tari was significantly better educated than he was. This is a retcon of that, because he clearly didn't plan to have a dialogue with him and the child where they argued politics. But now he's just had a dialogue with the child where they've argued politics. So the child has to be inferior to him in intelligence. Otherwise, his American audience are going to be like, we're less intellectually superior or less intellectually sophisticated than a child of this. And he's worried about that. His readers, the reading public for London publishers in the 19th century was Americans. That's why Sherlock Holmes' character takes such a major twist after the London publisher stopped giving a shit about Sherlock Holmes anymore. Anyway, moving on. The children of the Vrilya, having upon their minds the weight of so many active duties and grave responsibilities, are not generally mirthful. But Tari, with all his wisdom, had much of the playful good humor one often finds the characteristic of elderly men of genius. He felt that sort of pleasure in my society which a boy of a similar age in the upper world has in the company of a pet dog or monkey. It amused him to try and teach me the ways of his people, as it amuses a nephew of mine to make his poodle walk on its hind legs or jump through a hoop. I willingly lent myself to such experiments, but I never achieved the success of the poodle. I was very much interested at first in the attempt to ply the wings which the youngest of the Vrilya use as nimbly and easily as ours do the legs and arms. Oh, and a detail about this people that I forgot is that they play Quidditch, and they have mechanical wings that they fly with, that the wings have absolutely nothing to do with how they fly. They just wear the wings, and that makes them able to use the vril in such a way that they can fly. It's very dumb. I don't know about still, Watson. I haven't been in high school for 20 years. I read that book like 22 years ago, probably closer to 23 years ago. How old do you think I am, Watson? And should I take it as a compliment that you think I'm 16? Anyway, they have these dumb wings and they play Quidditch. Where do you think that neo-Nazi bitch got the idea? I'm sorry, J.K. Rowling. But my efforts were attended with contusions serious enough to make me abandon them in despair. These wings, as I said before, are very large, reaching to the knee, and in repose, thrown back so as to form a very graceful mantle. They are composed from the feathers of a gigantic bird that abounds in the rocky heights of the country. That's hilarious. I'm pretty sure he described them as metal before now. The color mostly white, but sometimes with reddish streaks. They are fastened around the shoulders with light but strong springs of steel. Here we go. And when expanded, the arms slide through loops for that purpose, forming, as it were, a stout central membrane. Oh, this is hilarious. He needs them to be Icarus's wings. He needs them to be Daedalus's wings. And so he's made them exactly Daedalus's wings. Because one thing that EBL is deliberately probably not doing in this is having this people invent any kind of actual innovative or interesting or future or imaginative tech. Because what he's trying to do is criticize his world from an American perspective with this fantasy people. Because that's how utopia fiction is understood in the time by utopian writers. Utopia means no place in Greek. No place. An impossible place. And so they don't invent anything novel in these. They take technologies that a widely read public would already recognize. Everybody knows Daedalus in the 19th century. You might not know Daedalus and Icarus and how Icarus's wings were constructed, but they did. And so they read this, EBL writes this in such a way that these people go, oh, Daedalus got the idea from them, not EBL got the idea from the Greek author of the Icarus myth. That's how the game was played in the 19th century. And now we are participating in the 21st century where we think this game is childish, because it is. As the arms are raised, a tubular lining beneath the vest or tunic becomes, by mechanical contrivance, inflated with air, increased or diminished at will by the movement of the arms, and serving to buoy the whole form as on bladders. This is hilarious, because this is not how he described it when we first come into the book. The wings and the balloon-like apparatus are highly charged with vril, and when the body is thus wafted upward, it seems to become singularly lightened of its weight. I found it easy enough to soar from the ground. Indeed, when the wings were spread, it was scarcely possible not to soar, but then came the difficulty and the danger. I utterly failed in the power to use and direct the pinions, though I am considered among my own race unusually alert and ready in bodily exercise, and I am a very practiced swimmer. I could only make the most confused and blundering efforts at flight. I was the servant of the wings. The wings were not my servants. They were beyond my control, and when, by a violent strain of muscle, and, I must fairly own, in that abnormal strength which is given by excessive fright, I curbed their gyrations and brought them near to the body, it seemed as if I lost the sustaining power stored in them and the connecting bladders, as when the air is let out of a balloon, and found myself precipitated again to the earth. Saved, indeed, by some spasmodic flutterings from being dashed to pieces, but not saved from the bruises and the stun of a heavy fall. I would, however, have persevered in my attempts but for the advice or the commands of the scientific Z, who had benevolently accompanied my flutterings, and, indeed, on the last occasion, flying just under me, received my form as it fell on her own expanded wings, and preserved me from breaking my head on the roof of the pyramid from which we had ascended. He needs this to be exactly the Icarus myth. He can't change anything, because then his audience won't think it's real, because they'll only recognize what they already recognize as real. And he needs the audience to suspend their disbelief. And in the 19th century, they didn't have movies. They didn't have CG. They didn't have cartoons, right? They didn't have wildly imaginative fiction. This is wildly imaginative to a 19th century person. I see, said Z, that your trials are in vain, not from the fault of the wings and their appurtenances, nor from any imperfectness and malformation of your own corpuscular system, but from irremediable, because organic, defect in your power of volition. These word choices are huge like this, because if you're not well read, then you're not smart. And if you're not smart, you can't read it. And if you can't read it, then you're out of the club. If you literally don't understand the words of the text, then you don't get to sit around the water fountains, the water coolers. You don't get to sit around the dinner parties and the social events, the social media of the day and talk about the book, because you'll have to admit that you don't know what irremediable means. And you have to admit that you're a stupid person in public. That's why these are written the way they are. It's annoying because you have to think, what the fuck does not from any imperfectness and malformation of your own corpuscular system, but from irremediable, because organic, defect in your power of volition. The fuck does that mean? I know what it means, but what does it mean? Continuing, learn that the connection between the will and the agencies, of that fluid which has been subjected to the control of the Vrilya was never established by the first discoverers, never achieved by a single generation. It has gone on increasing, like other properties of race, in proportion as it has been uniformly transmitted from parent to child, so that, at last, it has become an instinct and an infant. Arn of our race, that means men, wills, and an infant Arn of our race, an infant boy of our race, wills to fly as intuitively and unconsciously as he wills to walk. He thus plies his invented or artificial wings with as much safety as a bird plies those with which it is born. I did not think sufficiently of this when I allowed you to try an experiment which allured me, for I have longed to have in you a companion. I shall abandon the experiment now. Your life is becoming dear to me. Herewith the guy's voice and face softened, and I felt more seriously alarmed than I had been in my previous flights. Do we think that scientifically inclined people actually talk to one another like this? I don't. I don't believe that before very modern prose, I don't believe that people spoke the same way they wrote. I do not believe that EBL, if he's speaking to a girl he's trying to fuck in a bar, speaks like this. But Z is telling him she wants to fuck and that she can't fuck if he dies. Do you think he talked like this when he wanted to fuck? Because I don't. I don't think people spoke to one another the way they wrote back then. I don't believe it. I don't believe that you dress up your texts in the way that you engage in these chats higher than the way you speak. I don't think you do. I think they did. She continues, now that I am on the wait a minute. Oh, sorry. He continues, now that I am on the subject of wings, I ought not to omit mention of a custom among the Gaiai, that means the women, which seems to me very pretty, and tender in the sentiment it implies. A guy wears wings habitually when yet a virgin. She joins the Arna in their aerial sports. She adventures alone and afar into the wilder regions of the sunless world. In the boldness and height of her soarings, not less than in the grace of her movements, she excels the opposite sex. But from the day of her marriage she wears wings no more. She suspends them with her own willing hand over the nuptial couch, never to be resumed unless the marriage tie be severed by divorce or death, for some reason. Now when Z's voice and eyes thus soften, and at that softening I prophetically recoiled and shuddered. Tari, who had accompanied us in our flights, but who, childlike, had been much more amused with my awkwardness, and yeah, she told him she wants sex and marriage, but who, childlike, had been much more amused with my awkwardness than sympathizing in my fears or aware of my danger, hovered over us, poised amidst spread wings, and hearing the endearing words of the young guy, laughed aloud, said he. If the Tish cannot learn to use the use of wings, you may still be his companion, Z, for you can suspend your own. She said, I want to fuck. I need you to be alive in order for you to fuck. And the little kid said, you can still fuck. He's trying to show that they're human just like us. It's so bad. It's so bad. I hate this, by the way. I hate it. This is me hating what I'm doing. I hate this. It's so bad. I can do this. Chapter 21. I had for some time observed in my host's highly informed and powerfully proportioned daughter that kindly and protective sentiment he's talking about, Z. That kindly and protective sentiment which, whether above the earth or below it, an all-wise providence has bestowed upon the feminine division of the human race. But until very lately I had ascribed it to that affection for pets, which a human female at every age shares with a human child. I now became painfully aware that the feeling with which Z deigned to regard me was different from that which I had inspired in Tari. But that conviction gave me none of that complacent gratification which the vanity of man ordinarily conceives from a flattering appreciation of his personal merits on the part of the fair sex. On the contrary, it inspired me with fear. Yet, of all the Gaii in the community of Z were perhaps the wisest and the strongest, she was, by common repute, the gentlest, and she was most certainly the most popularly beloved. The desire to aid, to succor, to protect, to comfort, to bless seemed to pervade her whole being, though the complicated miseries that originate in penury and guilt are unknown to the social system of the Vrilya. Still, no sage had yet discovered in Vril an agency which could banish sorrow from life, and wherever amongst her people sorrow found its way, there Z followed in the mission of comforter. Did some sister guy fail to secure the love she sighed for? Z sought her out and brought all the resources of her lore and all the consolations of her sympathy to bear upon a grief that so needs the solace of a confidant. In the rare cases when grave illness seized upon childhood or youth, and the cases less rare when, in the hardy and adventurous probation of infants, some accident attended with pain and injury occurred, Z forsook her studies and her sports and became the healer and nurse. Can I just real quick, that facial expression I made, you can't see it. Never mind. That's one fucking paragraph. This page, no, this page, the last page, this whole chapter, this is a 2.5 page paragraph. This is so inconsiderate of the reader's attention span and time. This book is just so inconsiderate of my time. Anyway, I'm sorry. And focus and desire to be reading this. A 2.5 page paragraph is unacceptable in any century after the invention of the paragraph, of course. Continuing. About Z. Her favorite flights were towards the extreme boundaries of the domain where children were stationed on guard against outbreaks of warring forces in nature or the invasions of devouring animals, so that she might warn them of any peril which her knowledge detected or foresaw, or be at hand if any harm had befallen. Now, in the 21st century, is anybody else noticing the animals thing? Is anybody else noticing like the invading dangerous animals thing? And now he's given us the context that their animals are much bigger and scarier than ours. But in the 19th century, animals were still a lot closer to us than they are today, right? Like, think about it. Did I say 18th? 19th. In the 1800s, in the 19th century, that's when the gold rush was, right? A lot of people lived in wilderness or near wilderness conditions, especially in the United States, North America, as far as people who might read something like this might live in wilderness or near wilderness conditions. And so that this civilization under this underground has this high technology and this high philosophy, but they also have to hold watches for invading animals, is something that you have to keep in a 19th century novel. Because if they didn't have that, that would be a utopia. If London didn't still have to keep wolves and shit away from its nearby farmland in the 19th century, right? If San Francisco didn't have to worry about coyotes coming and stealing babies, right? If I don't know, St. Louis, Missouri didn't have to worry about Native Americans coming and raiding your shit. If these things weren't still threats in the 19th century, they wouldn't be threats that these Vrilya still have to cope with, because they can't be so far ahead of us developmentally or technologically, that the reader doesn't recognize them as only subtly different from us. If they're that much further evolved than we are, then evolution doesn't actually make sense. And he already made a creationist argument for evolution in this book. So their civilization is not evolved. It is the creation of a mind named Edward Bulwer Lytton. Anyway. This is so bad. Nay, even in the exercise of her scientific acquirements, there was a concurrent benevolence of purpose and will. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like the idea that they are having scientific accomplishments doesn't make sense. If they've already developed flight, personal flight, they've already developed effectively nuclear technology, they've already developed all of these techs, all of this tech. What are they developing toward? Why? He's already said they can't do astrophysics. They have no reason to have discovered quantum physics. They don't even have a reason to have tried to do physics. They're doing the things they're doing because they were happening in the 19th century in places like San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Boston, Charlotte, North Carolina, wherever you live. Did she learn any novelty and invention that would be useful to the practitioner of some special art or craft? Yeah, did she invent a better wrench? A better wrench? She hastened to communicate and explain it. Was some veteran sage of the college perplexed and wearied with the toil of an abstruse study? She would patiently devote herself to his aid, work out details for him, sustain his spirit with her hopeful smile, quicken his wit with her luminous suggestion, be to him, as it were, his own good genius made visible as the strengthener and inspirer. The same tenderness she exhibited to the inferior creatures. I have often known her bring home some sick and wounded animal and tend and cherish it as a mother would tend and cherish her sickened child. Many a time when I sat in the balcony or hanging garden on which my window opened, I have watched her rising in the air on her radiant wings, and in a few moments, groups of infants below, catching sight of her, would soar upward with joyous sounds of greeting, clustering and sporting around her so that she seemed a very center of intelligent delight. When I have walked with her amidst the rocks and valleys without the city, the elk deer would scent on her, or would scent or see her from afar, come bounding up, eager for the caress of her hand, or follow her footsteps, till dismissed by some musical whisper that the creature had learned to comprehend. It is the fashion among the virgin Gaiae to wear on their foreheads a circlet or coronet with gems resembling opals, arranged in 4 points or raised like stars. We recognize that she's an elf queen, right? We recognize that she's exactly what every artistic, romantic, educated, effete male wanted before about the middle 20th century in a woman, right? Her father is a king, and she's an elf queen, an elf princess. She's a scientist, but she's also emotionally available. She plays second fiddle to everyone, to everyone. And she's an animal whisperer. Literally, these underground elk, why they still have the, doesn't make sense, but these underground elk wait for her so they can approach her. She is, you don't know this, he didn't know this. We now know that this character is, in every sense of the word, an immigrant Síðkona, a Viking witch wife to the British Isles. She would have been an immigrant. Circa the 9th century, 10th century. She's Guinevere. She's the perfect British wife of power, sacred wife. This is very dumb. It's very cliched. But you don't know that if you don't know the cliche. You don't know that if you don't know the tropes. If you're German, you don't recognize this stuff as being 1,000 years old by the time this was written. Much, much older. In the Proto-English language, the languages that would become the English language 1,000 years ago, the developing English language of 1,000 years ago, the stories that were told in those languages were her. She was the main female character in all of them. That's why she has to be the way she is here. Even though it's an anachronism, doesn't make any sense for her culture for her to be this way. It doesn't make sense for her culturally to be this way among the Vrilya. But we continue. These are lusterless in ordinary use, luster. But if touched by the vril wand, they take a clear lambent flame, which illuminates yet not burns. This serves as an ornament in their festivities and as a lamp, if, in their wanderings beyond their artificial lights, they have to traverse the dark. There are times when I have seen Z's thoughtful majesty of face lighted up by this crowning halo, that I could scarcely believe her to be a creature of mortal birth, and bent my head before her as the vision of a being among the celestial orders. The flame right here at the forehead was something that the Seelie and Unseelie did of British fairy folklore. She's a fairy queen. She's an elf queen. The coronet of flames, by the way, is supposed to be like a necklace of, like a crown of human souls, men's souls that she's snatched and wears as a diadem on her forehead. That's what that's supposed to be. But if you're fans of the Forgotten Realms, you might be recognizing fairy fire here, because it's where they got the idea. But never once did my heart feel for this lofty type of the noblest womanhood a sentiment of human love. Is it that, among the race I belong to, man's pride so far influences his passions that woman loses to him her special charm of woman, if he feels her to be in all things eminently superior to himself? Is it? But by what strange infatuation could this peerless daughter of a race which, in the supremacy of its powers and the felicity of its conditions, ranked all other races in the category of barbarians, have deigned to honor me with her preference and personal qualifications, though I passed for good-looking amongst the people I came from? The handsomest of my countrymen might have seemed insignificant and homely, besides the grand and serene type of beauty which characterized the aspect of the Vrilya. That novelty, the same difference between myself and those to whom Z was accustomed, might serve to bias her fancy, was probable enough, and as the reader will see later, such a cause might suffice to account for the predilection with which I was distinguished by a young guy scarcely out of her childhood, and very inferior in all respects to Z. But whoever will consider those tender characteristics which I have just ascribed to the daughter of Arflen may readily conceive that the main cause of my attraction to her was in her instinctive desire to cherish, to comfort, to protect, and, in protecting, to sustain and exalt. Thus, when I look back, I account for the only weakness unworthy of her lofty nature. which bowed the daughter of the Vrilya to a woman's affection for one so inferior to herself as was her father's guest. But be the cause what it may, the consciousness that I had inspired such affection thrilled me with awe, a moral awe of her very imperfections, of her mysterious powers, of the inseparable distinctions between her race and my own. And with that awe, I must confess to my shame, there combined the more material and ignoble dread of the perils to which her preference would expose me. Under these anxious circumstances, fortunately, my conscience and sense of honor were free from reproach. It became clearly my duty, if Z's preference continued manifest, to intimate it to my host, with, of course, all the delicacy which is ever to be preserved by a well-bred man, and confiding to another any degree of favor by which one of the fair sex may condescend to distinguish him. Thus, at all events, I should be freed from responsibility or suspicion of voluntary participation in the sentiments of Z, and the superior wisdom of my host might probably suggest some sage extrication from my perilous dilemma. He's saying, I didn't encourage her towards sex. She asked me for it a lot. I didn't encourage it, and then her dad told me to stop encouraging it. I didn't encourage it. That's what he just said right there. In this resolve, I obeyed the ordinary instinct of civilized and moral man, who, erring though he be, still generally prefers the right course in those cases where it is obviously against his inclinations, his interests, and his safety to elect the wrong one. He fucked her. That's what he means. He means that he didn't encourage it, but he still fucked her. Okay. That's an hour. You fell asleep? It's okay, Miko. Falling asleep is good. Falling asleep when you're listening to a book means that you are all the way the fuck relaxed. And that's the goal, frankly, is to get all the way the fuck relaxed. That's why I do these late at night like this. I don't like to challenge my mind before bed, but I do like to engage it so that I start yawning like that. I do like to be able to fall asleep. So I'm going to take that as a pat on my back. Miko Marcus. Thank you for being here for it. You too, Angela. Don't let me treat you like a second fiddle. Not that I would. Don't let me treat you like the backup, because you're not. You're all first chair to me. But now I will open the floor. I know you just said that you fell asleep, but if you want to, you're not used to being read to and you're enjoying it. Yeah, it's one of my very favorite pastimes is to be read to. And one of my very favorite things to do is read out loud. I loved it in high school. When we got to do the reading, I'll do it. I'll just do the whole book. Just let me read it out loud. I comprehend it better when I'm reading it out loud. Whoop. And I have a skill for it because I like it, so I do it a lot. It's not a natural skill. It's not something. It doesn't come naturally to me. I don't know if you noticed, but I have a lisp, not a lisp. I have a speech impediment. My words will tangle up on themselves, or they'll come out. They'll come out in different order. So reading allows me to focus on one word at a time as the sentences build out. It allows me to focus and allows me to see what's being talked about. And so one of the things for me, and what drove me to writing, is one of the things that I don't like is when you can tell that a writer isn't holding the three-dimensional imaginary space in their mind and turning an imaginary camera around in it as the action's happening. So they're not describing the action. They're describing a scene. I really hate that. And so you might notice in my work that it feels more three-dimensional. Okay, Corey, you didn't need to yell that, but I am certain that you don't. I'm certain that you don't understand fifth-dimensional mathematics if you're the kind of person who will just bring them up in all caps. Right, Angela. Me too. That's why I like to read out loud. I found myself reading into a microphone so I could listen back to it and not needing to listen back to it. So my gift to you guys. This is something I would be doing with my time anyway. This way I can do it at all. And frankly, I've gotten more positive feedback for this in the last 38 years of my life. Just the reading. I've got more positive feedback for this. Or maybe you could, yeah, maybe you could try that. I wish we would start saying could instead of should. Should is such a strong word. Mm. Yeah, okay, so Angela, about that, I've listened to a million audiobooks, like 600 of them. Legitimately, I've listened to very, very close to 600 audiobooks. I own nearly 700, so let's just say I've listened to close to 6 over the course of my life. And one thing that I notice is that all audiobook readers read too fast. They emphasize the wrong syllables and the wrong words in the wrong order because they're reading too fast. And most people, when they listen, speed it up, so they just miss everything. Sure, you finished it, but you didn't get any of it. And so, especially with my literature, with the stuff that I make, it's a slow read. We are going to get in here and we're going to feel this prose. But storytelling is also something that I've trained myself in. I've bought 2 or 3 great courses, lectures, so I could sit in a college classroom and listen to. Hey, you too, Miko. Thanks for hanging out with me for that first 15 minutes while I got settled in emotionally to do this. I appreciate that in a big way. And thank you for the relaxation. That too, Angela. And so I really tried to educate myself, and then I trained myself, taught myself really, but no, I was taught by material that I bought, and my ex-wife to be a storyteller for real. It's all I ever wanted to be as a little kid. Like today, I referenced it, but like when I was a little boy, my dad took me to the Catawba. Catawba is a Native American tribe in North America, or in North Carolina. He took me to the Catawba reservation, and we listened to the chief just tell stories, and it was just religion, is what it was. And so I've just always loved stories, and I like telling them. And the way you tell a story can completely change how the story is received. So one of the things I do when I watch movies and I don't like them is I say, well, the story was probably not the problem. Probably the problem was the manner in which it was expressed. Why are we skipping the fourth dimension, Corey? Wouldn't it be easy to escape a 3D matrix as a four-dimensional being? Why are we skipping yeah, but why are you skipping the fourth dimension in your descriptions? Wouldn't it be easy as a fourth dimensional being to escape the third dimensional trap of whatever third dimensional matrix that you're talking about? Wouldn't a fourth dimensional matrix make more sense? Wouldn't it make more sense to ascend to the fifth to escape the fourth? I'm asking you, Good questions. You went from the third. You criticize the third from a fifth perspective. Why? How do matrices work? I lived within an hour of Cherokee. I never went to Cherokee. I worked service, and we had a lot of people from the res. I don't know what a bill kiffer is, Max. I'm sorry. You are in the second dimension to me right now, Max. From my perspective, you are a second dimensional being. I am aware of what Gravity Falls is. He's probably trying to be funny and irreverent, but I don't have a first grade audience. Pretty sure that's a Disney Channel show for babies. I'm pretty sure that Gravity Falls is babies first. The supernatural isn't that scary show. And it's got the lesbian from Bob's Burgers in it. I could be wrong about all of that, though. Regular show's better. I'm not an expert. Overseas, the water goes up the waterfall? I don't think that's possible. There must be some trick to it. Overseas, that's funny. I know where you're from, Angela. It's the wind. I hear you. There's a waterfall that catches it and it blows it up because it's so high in the air that the water doesn't actually weigh enough. It particulates and discorporates in the air. That's cool. I definitely know where you're from, the way you used overseas, though. All right. Well, it's just me and Angela hanging out. You got a few more minutes of my attention. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And I've seen pictures of it. I think I know what you're talking about. This isn't a fountain. I'm not criticizing you, Angela. This isn't a fountain. This is Spoopyween. The reading is over. If we want to talk about what we just read, that's cool. It's hard to do that if you're not catching all of these, right? So if they're not building, it's hard for you to do that. So please hit the comments. Listen to all of them. It's worth doing. I'm here for the meta conversation. I'm just also aware it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So the way this could work, yeah, you just listened to chapters 20 and 21 of a book right in, in the middle of the book. And it's attempting to be a philosophical utopia. Philosophical utopian fiction is something that was a very specific kind of genre. And so, like, we could maybe read Gulliver's Travels someday, because that's a book I've never read that I want to. Gulliver's Travels is actually deeply philosophical. Um, the utopia genre was a philosophy. They were works of philosophy. They weren't works like today. We don't consider utopian fiction like, what was that book? Catching Fire. That was the second one in the Hunger Games. We don't call, like, Hunger Games is a dystopian fiction, but dystopia, utopia, topia, it's the same fucking genre, right? It's, you change one thing. Instead of making it perfectly good, you make it perfectly bad. Um, this is a genre of philosophy. So today we don't consider works like this. We don't consider the Hunger Games or Snowpiercer or 7 Days to Die. Not 7 Days to Die. I'm sorry. The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. We don't consider these meditations, and there's a particular IP I'm trying to think of that I'm not getting. We don't think of these works as philosophical. These meditations or examinations of a subject, we don't think of them as philosophical, but that's exactly what that word means. Philosophical means a unique perspective, meditating or examining a subject. That's literally what subjective means, that anybody can look at it and see something else. Oh, here we go. Yeah, okay, but why aren't you giving me what's happening in the middle, in the fourth dimension? Why are we only talking in prime numbers, Corey? Why only 3 and 5? You don't exist in the third dimension. You are not right now speaking to me. Where you're at in your life, the phone you're handling isn't a third dimensional phone. It's a fourth dimensional phone. How do I know that? Because it exists in time, over time, through time, because of time. Without time and space, there is no three-dimensional object to exist. Objects don't only exist for one slice of time. No, you are in the fourth now, you fucking idiot. You are a fourth dimensional object right now. The phone is a fourth dimensional object. Bitch, don't tell me what to get over. You don't even understand basic math. Yell at me one more time, I'm going to slap you in the mouth with my limp dick. See, now, yeah, we'll do it somewhere else. I was very explicit. What's Christ got to do with it? Christ is just a secondhand devotion anyway. I've already used that joke before, but it's a good one. Yeah, she's just spouting some dumb New Age bullshit from the 19th century that she doesn't fully understand, because New Age had to radically change itself when special relativity became the cultural, rather the scientific consensus. Well, he was confused. Well, she is a Corey with hearts around their name. You could assume that that's either a woman or a cocksucker. So a cocksucker, one way or the other. Don't know what they're talking about. Just The dumb shit that she was saying, the dumb shit she was saying just 10 years ago would have been, you got to get out of the fourth dimension. You got to get out of the fourth dimension. Dumbass. The new age is only sort of talking about fifth dimensional mathematics because they've only recently realized that space and time are the fourth dimension. We are in the fourth dimension. So what is the fifth dimension? What even is it? They don't know. It's just a higher dimensional thinking than the one we're in, but they don't even think in fourth dimensional thinking. They don't realize that something like the span of measuring something in time is using the fourth dimension. So when you say, for example, I am 37 years old, I'm 38. So when you say I'm 37, you mean that I'm a fourth dimensional object that has existed in time for 47 or 37 years. That span of years is manipulating or at least measuring in 4 dimensions. So my measurements are 6 feet by about 9 feet by about 18, not 9 feet, 9 inches by about 18 inches over 38 years. Like my phone, right? It has a height, a width, and a depth, and it's been in existence for a certain amount of time. Now, we can get into a philosophical argument about was it in existence when it was components? That's an interesting conversation. I would say that the phone didn't exist until it was a finished product, but how far before it was a finished product did it exist? Because what Plato and Socrates would try to argue is that it existed in the mind of the inventor long before it was ever a finished product. And so you have to date it at the prototype in the mind of the designer. But then when you start to get into corporate design, what's that? Who's the original mind that thought up the thing? Especially when you're talking about a collaborative group, like a collaborative thing, group think, a group thought thing, when you're talking about collaborative corporate production. So like idealism, Plato, idealism. Idealism is the perfect form of a thing. Okay, so take my headphones, take Bluetooth earbuds. The perfectest form where there's no fault, nothing could and it can't break. Dimensions aren't realities, no. Dimensions are measurements dimensions are units of measurement. Or not units of measurement. Dimensions are literally dimensions of measurement. So I'll go back through this. A three-dimensional object is measured in it's the first dimension, height, the second dimension, width, the third dimension is depth. So a one-dimensional object is a line in a sand. A two-dimensional object is a square in the sand. A three-dimensional object has right angle lines coming off of that. Those are depth, a cube. A four-dimensional object is kind of a hypercube. It's a cube inside a cube. It's a cube where all of the corners of the cube, including those inside the cube, also form cubes. Mathematically, like if you want to represent it geometrically, that's what it is. But that fourth dimension is time, right? We measure in time. We measure things in time. You measure things in inches, right? We also measure things in seconds. Time is measured by clocks. The universe is a giant clock. Clocks are anything that happens regularly. So the orbits of our planet, the orbit of our planet around the sun around the center of the galaxies around the center of the universe. Everything is clocks. Everything is time. Everything is defined by its existence in time, because time and space together make a matrix that allows things to exist. Because like I said, nothing exists for only one slice of time. You can't divide something up You can't divide time up into a small enough chunk where things do that. Except for the very, very small quantum particles of energy that the original universe was built out of. And so when she's saying you need to evolve out of the third dimension into the fifth dimension, she needs to evolve into the fourth dimension first. Learning how to run before you know how to walk is dangerous shit. You're going to fall down a lot, meaning you're going to say a lot of dumb shit. And if you believe that what's going to happen when you die is that you're going to be reincarnated to get it right next time, it means you're going to be doing that dumb shit, reincarnating a lot. The falling when you try to run before you know how to walk is going to result in you tripping your stupid ass into hell over and over and over and over again. And you know what happens to people who trip psychedelics before they know how to still their insides and they're in control of their emotions? They trip their way to hell a lot. This is an abstraction that works on any level you want to take it up and down the totem pole. Any specific thing you want to talk about, it works. Start working the grill at McDonald's before you know what the fuck you're doing, and you're going to get burned a lot. You're going to trip and fall on that grill a lot. Oh yeah, you're stumbling constantly. Right. Because we focus more on getting where we're going than how we do it. I know this. I'm not saying that I'm better than you. My legs are ruined because I walked wrong my whole life, because nobody would just sit down and teach me how to walk properly, and I didn't know there was a proper way to walk. I ruined my legs walking wrong all these years. So I'm saying this from deep, ruinous, suffering experience. I'm absolutely not here to tell you that I'm better than you. It just sounds that way when you compete with me. But Edward Bulwer Lytton in The Coming Race is trying to tell you that at least the Vrilya think they're superior to you. And the Nazis genuinely believed that they were superior to us, and they were trying to find the Vrilya. They were looking for him. They thought Vril was real. But the thing is, because he was playing in the gaps, and if you've never heard of it, there's something that scientific skeptics use called a God of the gaps argument. That's where anywhere that a true believer, anywhere that a true believer perceives a gap in what we know and what we don't know, they say God resides in there. And it rubs people the wrong way that I know what I'm talking about, because they don't. And they think that they've spent a lot of time with the subject. They've spent enough time with it to memorize what they've memorized. And so when I contradict them and I'm right, yeah, it's going to rub them wrong, because that is perceived to them as wasted time. Well, if I spent all this time and I'm still a novice compared to him, and he's nobody, look at how little time he's spent on it. He lives in a tent. What have I done with my life? They ask. I don't remember what I was saying before that. I've been trying to explain to you why reading this is important before I go to bed. Reading this work and challenging ourselves against this work is important, because stupid people believe it, and stupid people do things like start World War II. So we test ourselves against stupid people. What would a stupid person do? Then don't do that. That's where my decision making begins. My decision making, whenever I set myself up to do anything, I ask myself two questions. What would a stupid person do in this situation? And then I don't do that. And then I ask myself, what would a genius do? When the story is told later, do it for the story. When the story is told later, what would people say a genius did? It's about eliminating possibilities. They taught you this in school. If you wanted to get good grades, all you had to do was eliminate the wrong answers. Well, I don't think, Angela, I think that if you really thought back on your life, you'd be very hard pressed to find a person who does want to see the opposite side of the coin. Think about it. It's lucky when you pick up one face, right? It's only lucky when you pick up one face. So people only want to see one face of a coin. I think you'd be very hard pressed to find people who are going around overturning lucky heads, coins to see if they were tails on the other side. When it comes to coin arguments, people assume that the side they're on is the right side and the other side is the wrong side because they know that the other side must be wrong if the right side is right. And so coin arguments are easy. Nobody wants to see the other side. The other side's wrong. And if we see things, they might change our perspective. Because seeing is doing in the human brain. And so we're smart about sheltering ourselves from things we don't want to see. For whatever reason. You don't want to watch somebody be eviscerated, I assume. And then expanding your mind and thoughts. Who wants that? Like, really think about it. Like, really think about the people that you've known in your lifetime. And who have you known in your lifetime, myself excluded, because I'm not here to fish for praise. Who have you really known that's trying to expand their mind and their thoughts? I would ask you, as you flip through your Rolodex of human beings that you've known over your life, were they interested? Did they want to expand their mind and their thoughts? Or did they want to learn more about things that they thought they already knew? Did they want to reinforce what they thought they already knew? Because I've known a lot of people in my life. And for the most part, everyone that I have ever met is talking about a movie they've already watched. Not trying to watch movies to see what they might see. So I'm going to go watch a movie tomorrow, by the way. Just to see what they might have in it. That's why I go and watch movies. To see what might be in the movie. What might be in the script. What might happen. What might be in the soundtrack. Because who knows? I don't know. Sure, I've seen a lot of trailers. Trailers lie. But trailers aren't trying to get me in the movie. I'm going to go watch that Keanu Reeves, Seth Rogen, Aziz Ansari flick about stealing, or the body swap between those two gentlemen, Aziz Ansari and Seth Rogen. It looks very funny. I'm not trying to bully you into telling me that I'm right or that I'm wrong. You see what I'm saying, Angela? I'm trying to say that there's a better way to express that, right? It's not that people don't want it anymore. It's that people never did. It's that that's not where the bar is set. The bar isn't set at self-expansion. I'm going to go watch it for sure. It looks hilarious. It has I know that the trailer, I don't assume that every joke that's in the trailer is in the movie, but the trailer has a joke where Keanu Reeves is playing the angel Gabriel. Keanu Reeves plays the angel Gabriel, which is, to me, hilarious because it's a callback to him killing the angel Gabriel in, they could have named the Gabriel anything, but the angel Gabriel is the villain in that movie where he played the fucking demon guy, Hunter or whatever. I can't think of what it's called right now. Constantine. And then we move on. It's a callback to Constantine. So anyway, he's playing this angel Gabriel and he's body swapped these two guys. And then in the trailer, there's a scene with him all dressed up in like a McDonald's outfit, standing outside having a cigarette. And his manager or somebody tells him that he's got to go back inside. They're in a rush or something. Or no, they're like, Gabriel, you're smoking cigarettes now? Something to that effect. And Keanu Reeves goes, Leave me alone. It's all I've got and I like it. And I want to watch the movie for that. There's got to be a setup to that joke that I want to watch. I don't know what it is. I want to find out what it is because that joke is enough to get me to pay whatever the ticket price is. And the setup has got to be worth it. And if it's not, I'm going to be disappointed. But now I know. And disappointment is really just now it's the feeling of knowing and not wanting to have known. Right? Think about how many times you were curious as a kid and the answer turned out to be disappointing. So when we say people don't want to grow anymore, I really wanted you to think about this. It was probably about second grade was the last time you knew anybody who really wanted to grow, really wanted to grow up, really wanted to learn, really wanted to practice being an adult. I mean, you never could go off trailers. It's just a trailer. But you always had to be that's the thing, is like we've always had to be critical consumers. You know this. Everybody knows this. Like there were TVs in the 90s that would set fire. You knew that you couldn't buy that TV. Right. Hello, Lady Atwell. I think I've thanked you for your membership before, and I think the last time I thanked you, I told you I didn't remember you by that username. So if you have gone by another username since I've known you, you could reintroduce yourself to me so I know who I'm talking to. Otherwise, it's nice to make your acquaintance as a stranger for the second time. Right, right. I'm not criticizing you that you didn't have any in your life. But if you're sitting here in your life and you're like, man, I just don't know how to grow from where I'm at and I really want to, you can ask yourself, well, who are your examples? And then you can get mad. And then you can get real mad. Because that's not your fault. You got to accept that anger and let it process, though. You got to let go of it eventually. I'm not aware of having any positive memories by which to remember you, Lady Atwell, so I appreciate your membership, and I would like to form those, please. Hello, Turbo Chris. You're allowed to be angry about that, Angela, because that's not your fault. That's outside your control. And if you want to be angry at God about it, hey, you're beyond. Heard that, lady. It's all good. Just trying to know who I'm talking to. It's all good. We had a nice conversation the other night that I don't remember beyond. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't remember, but we did have a nice conversation. I think I started to bow out because you guys probably started talking UFOs, if I'm not wrong. I am starting to get tired. But Angela, it's not your fault. And the book of Job says that if you want to complain to God, he'll come. But you got to complain to God and you got to mean it. And you got to cover your genitals. God takes that shit serious. Don't go to him naked. I don't know how he feels about nipples. It's unclear in the Bible. They spent a lot of time naked. They didn't care nearly as much about nipples as we do. I like getting away with saying that word. I might get myself in trouble for a scene that I read from Rob. I forgot that she grabbed his sword in the middle of that scene like that. It's a real thing, Angela. I don't know that I've ever heard it anywhere either. I've noticed it in scripture, and not just Abrahamic either. It's all over. Tech of belief, maybe. I don't know what you mean by that, Chris. You want to talk about it? Your words don't seem to mean anything to me. I don't know what you mean by technology or belief, or powerful for that matter. Those are philosophical words of art that you seem to be taking artistic license with, from my perspective. Or you're just speaking a mad lib apropos of nothing. I'm in the house, Nicholas. The live is coming from inside the house. I hope that's not your face. Because if that's your face, you look like fat Charlie Chaplin in geisha makeup. Hmm? Lady, it was just a reference to a 90s movie. There was a 90s crime, like serial killer drama that I actually didn't watch, but it got spoofed like crazy, and I saw a lot of the spoofs. There were even commercials about it. I think there was like a Bud Light commercial about it, actually, where the twist was like there was a guy calling this woman, I guess, like phone stalking her or whatever. And then when the cops tap the phone to find out where the guy is, he's in her basement or something. And like the big plot twist of the movie is some guy going, "The call's coming from inside the house." And everybody freaks out. And so it was spoofed a lot in the 90s. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck technology of belief could possibly mean. Yeah, you're being poetic. I don't know what the fuck any of that means, Turbo. I don't feel like interpreting poetry. Yeah, I'd be willing to have this philosophical conversation with you if you wanted to try to speak plainly. Shaggy dog means I am not here to play at highfalutin poetry like I think I'm noble born. I know, lady. I used to go by the Shaggy Dog philosopher, and I used to call myself a folk philosopher because I only speak in Anglo-Saxon words. I don't use big Latin words like technology. Render, what does render mean? Render onto what with what? And since you're talking about technology, what technology? Yeah, Weapons was so good, wasn't it, Angela? I really liked Weapons a lot. I got Rach to watch Naked Gun. Different, totally different movies thematically, stylistically, genretically. But Weapons was awesome. I actually found myself spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I was walking the other night. I was walking up the road here, back here, maybe back here, where I was walking at night the other night, and I imagined that AR-14 when he saw that AR-14 over that house. I imagine what it would be like to see that at scale. I think about that movie a lot. Um, I was walking somewhere, I think while I walk. And so I was alone and I was thinking about how deeply unlikable the female lead was. And the scene where the cop's wife comes running in, or sees her, like walks into her house or whatever and does the "you fucked him, didn't you?" I was thinking about that scene. That movie was really good. I was thinking, just like playing the movie in my head the other day while I was walking. Is that what you were talking about? Reality rendering itself, Turbo? What are you talking about? I need you to put down the crack pipe. Yeah, it was such a good. It was such good writing, wasn't it, Angela? Yeah, Weapons deserves a. It actually makes a bid in. I don't know if you noticed it, but in the movie, it actually makes a bid to be a show this movie off to your friend's DVD purchase. What are we overthinking in 2025? That's funny that it uh, hid you for a review for talking about the Naked Gun movie. That's funny to me. I used the word naked and Naked Gun, and it it flagged that. That's funny. What are we overthinking, T? That's awesome that you're 85. Yeah, it hits something primal in humanity. That's awesome. I prefer Marvel, lady, for a very specific reason. A very specific reason that people get really upset with me for. All of DC's plot points, all of DC's plot points have always been hand wavy magic stuff, and Marvel's plot points have always been hand wavy science stuff. And I just prefer the hand wavy science. Just always have. I always find the hand wavy magic explanations in DC uh, lazy. Lazy is the word. I don't know if Marvel differentiated itself from Detective Comics all the way back in the day with that in mind, but I noticed it young, and I've just always preferred. Always preferred. Batman. Batman gets a pass because they reach toward hand wavy science stuff. Uh, of the movies or just characters of their catalog, lady. That's an interesting. There's an interesting hair to split there. I'm curious. It's not. It's I'm not talking about any of the. The only Batman anything that I like is Mask of the Phantasm, that one animated movie. The rest of it I just have no interest in. Um, Batman gets a pass as a character just across all Batmans. Batman, the alternate when Joker was Batman's half brother. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. Batman was so much an outlier for DC that all of DC's characters are Batman spinoffs. Not all of them, but a huge number of them. DC freak. Heard that. I'm glad he liked it. Was he a big Snyder Cut guy? Like, give us the Snyder Cut, watch the Snyder Cut as soon as it was released, preferred the Snyder Cut? Was he like that guy? Those guys exist. I am not one of them. Haven't watched any of those movies. For sure. Good for him. I'm happy he likes what he likes. I'm happy it exists for him to like it. I think it's garbage. I'm glad he likes it. I'm glad he likes it. I sit sometimes and listen to the Taco Bell guys in the kitchen argue about this stuff, and they get heated. Heated. I'm not that guy. I really liked, just for anybody out there who like really wants to know me as a person, I thought Love and Thunder was one of the very best movies that Marvel has produced. Disney Marvel. Yeah, it's not for me, Smokey. It's just not for me. But they're happy with what they got, and that's what matters. It was a gift from the studio to them, and they got it, and they're happy. I loved Love and Thunder. I cheered at the end when the little kids got the Thor power. I cheered. I stood up at home. I was on the couch. I stood up to watch that like I was 9 years old. It happened. I liked that movie a lot. And I really liked Fantastic Four while we're talking about new movies. Fantastic Four has a Hollow Earth mole character that's reminiscent and borrowed from um, The Coming Race. Ragnarok was the one I didn't like. I think that was the only Ghostbusters. The originals or the reboots, remakes. The 80s or the more modern stuff. You're allowed to have a preference. I'm just curious. Heard. You like help me out with his name. Dan Aykroyd. You like Aykroyd. You follow Aykroyd's work apart from Hollywood, don't you? Smart boy. He's funny. He was also raised in, oh, you don't follow his work. Okay. Okay. Not real big into theosophy then? In the Spiritist movement? Morgan Freeman, heard that. I might have thought I was talking to Tammy for a second. No offense. It was, none was meant genuinely. And none should have been taken. Tammy is perfectly pleasant. All right, is she gone? I haven't seen it. Smokey, Angela, it's boring as fuck. I couldn't get through the first half hour. 80s movies are like that though. You gotta tune into 80s movies after the 45-minute mark. I haven't seen Roadhouse either. 80s movies, man. 90s movies are bad for that too. I started watching movies about 2008 and I haven't gone back in time much. What do we need good luck with, Steve? We made fun of your name earlier today. What, that it's boring as fuck? It's boring as fuck. I understand that the production, the movie itself got rained out, so they didn't get to shoot the movie that they wrote. And so it's just a bunch of drunk comedians improvising. Meet Joe Black. I don't know that I've seen that. Is that the one where he's got a tail? The dude's got a tail. No, that's Shallow Hal. Okay, no. Wildly different movies. I don't know what Meet Joe Black is. Either you, lady, or someone else recently brought that movie up. Plays Death. Who's Anthony Perkins? Why do I know that name? Or should I know that? Anthony Hopkins is a different kind of person. Ooh, Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt. Are we talking young Brad Pitt or seasoned veteran Brad Pitt? You watch 2 and 3 or all 3 of them, Steve? Young Brad Pitt? Okay, I probably won't tune in. Heard. What'd you think? I've read the first novel. I haven't watched any of the movies. What'd you think, Steve? Are they worth the hype? You didn't say for the first time. That was like 10 hours of your day, too, if you watched them all in a row. Worth the hype? Not worth the hype. The Gods Must Be Crazy? I haven't seen that. Not worth the hype. Oh, so deleting for some reason. Edgar Casey. Yeah, that's kind of why I guessed that you were a Aykroyd fan. You're interested in the same shit that Aykroyd is. That's why the Ghostbusters movies hit you in the right spot. Hit you right in the tickle cooter. The G, that's neat spot. God, I need to go to bed, guys. I'm sorry I said that. No, I'm not. A little bit I am. I'm sorry I said it where anybody could hear it. All right, how we doing for time? Yeah. Yep. I gotta do some other work, and I gotta tell a girl good morning. So, thank you, my friends and passers-by. What else am I on, Steve? I'm on YouTube, man. I have a Discord for my Patreon audience. Yeah, take care, Angela. I'm glad to have seen you. It's been a while. Night. Steve, the self-deletes are weird, man. Yeah, I'm just here on YouTube, dude. I stream to the Discord every night at Taco Bell until midnight. And then I come down here and read. Otherwise, I'm on YouTube. Be well, Angela. Take care. Be smart. He was freaky accurate. I hear you, lady. I didn't not see it. I know I started my goodbye. This is where I tell you that these late night streams are brought to you by the members here. So, Smokey, Lady, etc. They're the two who are present. And my Patreon subs. I can't afford to buy these books, and I most certainly can't afford the food that goes in my belly, keeping me able to, and the caffeine, frankly, keeping me able to focus for this long and this late into the day without them. So, to Mr. S, to Typical Rach, thank you. Without you, I would just be lost. I would have given up a long time ago. Maybe not that second long, just a long time ago. I would have given up before April ended. Be well. And if you learn nothing else from me, remember that do it one day longer than you want to. You never actually know when the breakthrough is going to finally come. Have a good night. If you miss me, I've got like 3,000 videos here on the channel. I'm sure I've got something that'll tickle you right in your funny cooter. Have a good night.